Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Have you spent much of your life unwanted, personally and professionally? You've probably spent a lot of time trying to figure out why. So, after just a few questions that I'm going to ask you that might help you unearth any new ideas you might want to try, most of this little talk is going to focus on how, moving forward, to improve the situation and to come to deserved self-acceptance. First, these few questions. They may help you identify something you'd like to improve. Imagine that a group of people who know you well anonymously answered these true-false questions about you. What would the consensus be? Would they say that you usually make other people feel good about yourself, about themselves? That you usually make other people feel good about themselves? That you are usually interesting to listen to? That you're diligent enough? That you're competent enough? Now, do the previous answers that you've given, do they suggest something you'd like to work on? If you're not sure on what to improve, how to improve, is there somebody you should ask? But in the meantime, here are some examples. Regarding making people feel good about themselves. Let's say those people who are voting on the true or false questions, they believe that you don't often enough make people feel good about themselves, and you want to improve that. Well, a common reason for that could be, and it may not be in your situation, is that you're too blunt. Let's say you've already tried hard to restrain yourself and to be more tactful, but to no avail. Sure, you might continue to try to be more measured about when and how blunt to be. For example, you might be ever asking yourself, will this following statement, if I made it, be something that's going to make the person feel better or worse about themselves? But you might also want to accept that other people probably benefit from your being that unusual type who is direct. People know what you're thinking, and that may be to their benefit if they can push aside annoyance at your style and judge you on the quality of your ideas. After all, haven't we all had brilliant professors whose style was off-putting? You tried to focus on the message, not the messenger. Wise listeners will do that when you're being blunt. Of course, many of your listeners will dismiss you because of that, but you might legitimately come to self-acceptance by considering that you might not care that much about such people. Also, given that you probably will always be quite direct, you might remember that the world is better for having some people who aren't forever couching and equivocating, but are straight shooters. That kind of a mindset, that recognition, remembering that, allows you to walk the earth with legitimate basis for feeling better about yourself. Another way that a person can make people feel bad about themselves is by being self-absorbed. You, meaning that you deem other people not worth caring about. Well, a baby step toward improvement would be to get in the habit of asking people about themselves, and not with the tossed-off stand, "Oh, how are you? Fine, how are you?" You might, for example, look the person in the eye, and after asking "how are you," but doing it in a caring tone, like "how are you?" and listening carefully to their answer. Maybe asking a follow-up, such as, "I've been thinking a lot about vaccination these days. What are you thinking about these days or doing these days?" Now some thoughts about how to improve to becoming a person who's more interesting to listen to. Let's say you would like to be more interesting to listen to, and if so, try to keep your utterances under 30 seconds, certainly under a minute. And if you don't have a good sense of how long that is, practice with a timer. And put yourself in the listener's shoes. How likely are they interested in that thing that you're interested in, that detail or tangent or whatever? Does it seem self-absorbed? Also, in most two-person conversations, aim to talk just a little less than half the time, maybe 30 to 50% of the time. If you would like to have more to talk about, maybe you want to do some more reading. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Psychology Today. Let's say you want to become more diligent. Start with one task that you often have to do that could use more diligence. Do you want to get in the habit of starting it earlier? Doing it more thoroughly? Now let's say you want to become more competent. Start with one thing on which you'd like to be more competent. Writing, time management, something technical, whatever. Should you tackle it with self-study, getting feedback, for example, from a tutor, or somebody who sits in the, who's somebody in your work group, or by taking a class? Now let's say you want to look better. It's unfortunate that we are a look-a species, but it's unless you're willing to pay the price, we have to do at least some level of conforming. Of course, the standard advice has some legitimacy. Do you take sufficient care in your clothing, your hair, and your personal hygiene? But let's take worst case, the unusual situation in which your face is irretrievably unattractive, at least in terms of society's norm. Can a legitimate way for you to feel better about yourself to recognize that if, on the substance, you're a good person, at least that will, with some people, take hold and therefore maybe even strike a blow against lookism. And let's say a final area of improvement or self-acceptance or whatever is deciding to spend more time going solo. Despite all the efforts like the kind of things I just mentioned earlier, if for much of your life you've usually been unwanted, it may be wise to stop, try to minimize interaction with people when they or the situation doesn't bring out the best in you, rather than fighting to try to worm your way into their hearts. For example, you might do more solo than teamwork by asking your boss if you could do that, more solo versus teamwork. In your personal life, spend as much time as possible in solo activities or with the discerning person or persons with whom you click. Anyway, is there at least one of the aforementioned ideas for improvement that you'd like to try? Or is it time to focus on self-acceptance? In any event, I do thank you for watching. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like you to hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.